Hello, beautiful souls. As we stand at the threshold of a new year, I invite you not to rush, but to listen. Before the fireworks of 2025 light up the sky, before resolutions are scribbled down in new notebooks, start now. Not with pressure, not with panic, but with presence. Self-awareness is the first step to change. Learn to listen deeply to your thoughts and feelings to create positive transformation before you make any change. Before you commit to a goal, a habit, or a new way of living, there is one essential act you must practice: listening, not to the world, not to the opinions of others, but to yourself. And I don't mean listening in the casual, surface-level sense. I mean listening deeply, patiently, and honestly to the quiet layers beneath your everyday thinking. This kind of listening isn't passive, it's active. It's a form of self-inquiry that philosophers have spoken of for centuries, and it is foundational to all true transformation. Socrates called it the examined life. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. Louise Hay called it loving yourself. When we pause and listen to ourselves, not our ego, not our inner critic, but our inner truth, we begin to see where we've been living out of alignment. We start to notice which beliefs we've adopted that no longer serve us. We catch the thought patterns that drain our power. We see the stories we've been telling ourselves: I'm not good enough, I'm too late, I'll start next year. And we realize they're not facts. They're scripts we've memorized, scripts we can rewrite. This inner listening is not easy. In fact, it's often uncomfortable. It requires you to sit still with yourself without distraction, without the armor of busyness. But it's only in that stillness that you hear what's real, what's authentic, what's aching to grow inside of you. You see, the world is loud. It will constantly tell you who to be and what to chase. It will urge you to compare, to compete, to conform. But your truth is quiet, and it can only be heard when you create space for it to emerge. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened? Not for solutions, but for understanding. Many people are afraid of what they'll find when they go inward. They fear discovering pain, regret, or limitation. But here's the deeper truth. When you listen with compassion and not judgment, what you find inside yourself is not brokenness, it is potential. It is clarity, and it is the beginning of genuine self-respect. Psychologically, when you become aware of your thoughts and feelings, you create distance between yourself and the patterns that previously controlled you. This is called awareness of your awareness, and it is incredibly powerful. It means you're no longer a passive participant in your life. You become an observer and a conscious creator. And philosophically, when you listen inwardly, you are engaging in one of the highest acts of being human, the pursuit of self-knowledge. Not for the sake of ego, but for the sake of integrity. You begin to act in ways that reflect who you are, not who you were told to be. This is how we reclaim our freedom, not by changing everything overnight, but by coming home to ourselves. So as the new year approaches, don't rush to resolutions. Don't let urgency replace authenticity. Instead, start by listening. Sit in the quiet, ask yourself gently, what part of me is ready to evolve? What truth have I been avoiding? What do I know deep down but haven't acted on yet? Because here's the beautiful paradox. The more you listen, the less lost you feel. The more you tune in, the more you align with your life's deeper direction. We do not find answers by speaking over ourselves. We find answers by finally listening. Everything you are seeking to become in 2025 begins with the courage to hear who you already are. Affirmations are seeds of a new life. Use daily affirmations to plant empowering beliefs that will grow in 2025 and beyond. Once you've begun to listen, really listen to your inner voice, what you do next shapes everything. And this is where the power of affirmation comes in. Let's be clear, affirmations are not wishful thinking. They are not fluffy mantras that you repeat in the hopes that life magically rearranges itself. That's not how change works, and that's not what affirmation truly means. At its core, an affirmation is a conscious instruction to your subconscious mind. It is a deliberate choice to reprogram the internal narrative that influences your emotions, your behaviors, and ultimately your life. You see, your subconscious is always listening. It doesn't filter what it hears. It doesn't distinguish between truth and falsehood. It simply absorbs and reflects what is consistently repeated. So if you are constantly telling yourself, "I'm not ready," or "I'm always behind," or "I'll never get this right," then guess what? Your subconscious will take those words and begin crafting a reality that matches them. Not because it wants to sabotage you, but because you gave it the blueprint. This is why affirmations matter. They are not about pretending everything is perfect. They are about choosing the direction in which you want your mind and your life to move. Just like you wouldn't expect a garden to grow if you never planted seeds, you can't expect your inner world to flourish if you never speak to it with intention. Now, affirmations are most powerful when they are both emotionally true and aspirational. They should stretch you, yes, but they must also feel accessible. Saying, "I love myself unconditionally," may feel impossible if you've spent years criticizing yourself. But saying, "I am learning to treat myself with kindness," can be a bridge. It honors where you are while pointing to where you want to go. Think of it like this: you're not lying to yourself, you're leading yourself. You are guiding your inner world toward alignment with your highest values, one phrase, one repetition, one new belief at a time. Psychologically, this is grounded in cognitive behavioral theory. Your thoughts influence your emotions, which influence your actions. If you shift the thought over time, you shift the outcome. Affirmations are tools of cognitive redirection. They move you away from limiting beliefs and toward empowering ones. Philosophically, affirmations reflect one of the deepest truths we know, that human beings are not fixed entities, we are becomings. We are fluid, we are in process, and we are capable of profound change. Every day, your mind is reshaping itself through neuroplasticity. So why not give it something beautiful to work with? One of my favorite affirmations to begin with is simple yet transformative. I am open to the possibility of change. Just that. Not a declaration of perfection, not a demand, just an opening, a willingness, and from that opening, the real work begins. Start speaking to yourself like someone you care about. Imagine that your inner child, your truest, most vulnerable self, is listening to every word you say. Would you still speak to yourself with criticism, or would you offer reassurance, encouragement, hope? When you wake up before the world floods in with noise, try this. Today, I choose thoughts that support my growth. I am safe to outgrow who I was yesterday. I deserve peace, and I'm learning how to claim it. Say them slowly. Say them with your hand over your heart if it helps. What matters most is not the perfection of the words, but the sincerity behind them. The mind listens best when it senses truth. You don't need to wait for January 1st to begin this practice. You don't even need a perfect plan. You just need a moment of stillness, a willingness to plant new thoughts, and the faith that they will take root. Because here's what I know to be true. Every transformation you desire begins as a sentence you're brave enough to speak to yourself. You are worthy of a better life now. Don't wait for a perfect moment. Begin now, because you are already enough. One of the most common reasons people postpone their transformation is because they believe they need to become someone else first. More disciplined, more healed, more successful, before they can start. But let me offer a different perspective, one that I believe with every fiber of my being. You are already worthy of the life you desire. Not at some distant point in the future. Not after you've proven yourself. Now. This idea may challenge everything you've been taught. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that worth must be earned, that it is conditional, that we must hustle, achieve, perfect, or punish ourselves to be good enough. But that model has failed us emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, because worth isn't something you work for. It's something you remember. You were born worthy. Long before you had goals, titles, income, or a to-do list, you were inherently valuable. And that has never changed, even if you've forgotten, even if the world tried to convince you otherwise. Now, this isn't to say you don't need growth or improvement. We all do. But growth built on the foundation of self-worth is very different from growth built on the belief that you're broken. One comes from love, the other comes from fear, and your results internally and externally will reflect which one you choose. From a psychological standpoint, this distinction matters deeply. When you believe you are unworthy, your brain filters your experiences through that lens. You will interpret setbacks as proof that you're failing. You'll attract relationships that mirror your low self-image. And you'll self-sabotage any success that conflicts with the negative identity you've internalized. But when you choose to believe, even just tentatively, that you are enough, something shifts. You begin to act in alignment with your value. You become less desperate to seek approval and more interested in seeking truth. You stop tolerating what drains you. You set boundaries not because you're angry, but because you finally realized you deserve peace. Philosophically, this is not a new idea. Thinkers across cultures and centuries, from Eastern mystics to Western theologians, have spoken of the intrinsic dignity of the soul. Louise Hay spoke of it as self-love. She taught that every problem is rooted in not loving ourselves, and that every solution begins when we dare to see ourselves through the eyes of compassion. And here's the truth that many people miss. Recognizing your worth is not a declaration of arrogance. It is an act of alignment. When you acknowledge your value, you aren't elevating yourself above others. You're simply returning to the truth that lives beneath your fear, your habits, your history. That's why I urge you, before 2025 arrives, to stop waiting for a better version of yourself to show up. Start now as you are. Imperfect, yes. In progress, absolutely. But already whole, already deserving. Say to yourself, I do not need to be perfect to be valuable. I am allowed to grow from love, not shame. I am enough to begin right now. This shift in perspective is not just empowering, it's transformative. Because when you stop trying to earn your worth, you free up energy to create, to heal, to connect. You stop performing and start living. You become someone who moves with quiet confidence, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need to prove anything. So please hear this not just with your mind, but with your heart. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are ready. Begin your next chapter not to become enough, but because you already are. The subconscious mind is always listening. Feed it with love, clarity, and intention before the new year begins. There's something we often forget in the process of trying to better ourselves. Your subconscious is always listening, even when you're not speaking out loud, even when you're not paying attention. It listens to the tone of your self-talk, the assumptions you make about life, the things you repeat to yourself so often they begin to feel like absolute truth. Now, this isn't just a poetic idea. It's a deeply psychological truth. Your subconscious mind is not a passive part of you. It's active, attentive, and constantly shaping the way you see and experience the world. Unlike your conscious mind, which makes decisions and forms judgments, your subconscious doesn't debate. It doesn't argue, it simply absorbs, and then it goes to work organizing your reality around the beliefs it's been fed. So when you constantly think thoughts like, I always mess things up, or nothing ever works out for me, or I'm not smart enough, those aren't just fleeting doubts. Those are instructions. They become the blueprint your subconscious uses to build your habits, reactions, and even your emotional responses. But the opposite is also true. If you begin to introduce thoughts like I'm learning to trust myself, or I'm capable of growth, or my past does not define my future, your subconscious hears that too. It begins to orient your attention, your decisions, and your behavior toward those beliefs just as loyally. This is why change is possible, not because you forced it, but because you've redirected the internal narrative that was steering your life without your awareness. What we feed the subconscious mind becomes our emotional environment, and much like a physical environment, it can either nourish you or drain you. If your mental space is filled with self-criticism, worry, or guilt, it's like trying to thrive in a garden filled with toxic soil. You may still grow, but you'll have to fight for every inch. But if you tend to that inner space, if you begin to speak to yourself with honesty and encouragement, if you protect that space with awareness and care, then growth happens more naturally. Because now you're aligned, not at war with yourself. This is not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending that life is always perfect. It's about recognizing that you have agency over the thoughts you repeat, and therefore the beliefs you build. And those beliefs, in turn, shape the life you lead. Thought is where everything begins. It's the seed, the soil, and the sun. From a philosophical standpoint, this is the very essence of intentional living. The idea that we are not just reacting to life, but creating it, moment by moment, through the content of our consciousness. And it asks you to take responsibility not just for your actions, but for your thinking, because your thoughts are not private. They echo, they leave a trail, they become energy that informs everything else. So I want to invite you, especially now before the new year begins, to examine what your inner dialogue sounds like. What kinds of statements are you repeating without realizing it? What messages are you reinforcing every time you encounter a challenge or make a mistake? Are those thoughts aligned with the life you want to live? You can begin shifting this right now. You don't need to overhaul your entire inner world in a day. Just become conscious, observe the pattern, and when you catch a thought that limits you, pause. Replace it with one that supports you, even gently. Instead of, I'm terrible at this, Try, I'm still learning and that's okay. Instead of, nothing ever changes, try, change is possible for me, even if it takes time. Instead of, I'm too late, try, this is my time to begin. Each shift requires something subtle but profound. And over time, those small inner changes turn into new outcomes, new relationships, and new chapters. Because the truth is this, your life is always responding to the conversation you're having with yourself. Small daily actions lead to massive change. Start now with small, loving changes and your 2025 will blossom with results. As you continue on this journey of listening to yourself, affirming your worth, and shifting your inner dialogue, there comes a moment where something subtle, but incredibly powerful, must occur. A moment where you move from intention to decision. Because no matter how much clarity you gain, change does not unfold until you choose it. Repeatedly, consciously, willingly, we often think that change is about strategy, discipline, or motivation. And while those all have their place, the foundation beneath them is something far simpler and more profound: choice. A single, empowered decision made from within can alter the entire direction of your life. But what makes choice so complex is that it doesn't always feel dramatic. It's not usually loud or cinematic. In fact, real change often begins in a quiet, almost private decision. I will no longer abandon myself. I will no longer believe that I'm too late. I will begin even if I'm scared. Psychologically, choice is the hinge between your past and your potential. When you make a new choice, even a small one, you disrupt your patterns. You introduce something novel into the loop of repetition that has shaped your life up to this point. In that interruption is everything. That's how you begin to rewire your identity, not just by hoping things will improve, but by taking ownership of the fact that you are not helpless. You are not bound by the past. You are not a fixed story. Every day, in every moment, you are choosing, whether you're aware of it or not. You're choosing how to respond, what to believe, what to focus on, and how to treat yourself. Most people are doing this unconsciously. They're stuck in loops, choosing the same reactions, the same excuses, the same beliefs over and over again because it feels familiar. But familiarity does not mean alignment. Familiarity simply means repetition. This is where conscious choice becomes transformative. When you pause and ask yourself, is this choice aligned with who I want to become? You are stepping out of autopilot and into authorship. You're no longer living by default, you're living by design, and this act alone, choosing with awareness, creates momentum. It creates direction. It tells your subconscious we're doing something new now. And the mind, when guided with consistency, will follow. Philosophically, the idea of choice is deeply tied to the concept of freedom. Not external freedom, but internal freedom. The ability to respond rather than react, to steer rather than drift. Viktor Frankl, the great psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space is your power. It is where change becomes real." Louise Hay often reminded us that every thought we think is creating our future. But it's not just our thoughts, it's the choices we make based on those thoughts. And when you begin to see each day, each moment, as an opportunity to choose differently, you stop waiting for transformation and you start embodying it. So as you look ahead, I want you to ask yourself not what you hope will happen in 2025, but what you are willing to choose now. Will you choose to trust yourself a little more, to stop repeating the same limiting belief, to take one small action, even if you're uncertain? Because it's not the calendar that changes your life, it's you. Your willingness to choose differently, consistently, and with love. And here's the insight I want you to carry with you. The life you long for is already within reach, if you're willing to choose it before it feels comfortable. Forgiveness frees the future. Let go of old patterns and past hurts to step into your empowered self. When we talk about transformation, there's one final piece we must acknowledge, because without it, all the insight, intention, and inner work remains suspended in potential. That final piece is action, but not just any action, aligned, consistent action. Action that flows from your truth, that honors your worth, and that reinforces the new reality you're creating from within. Often, people delay action because they're waiting for the perfect moment. They wait for clarity, for confidence, for signs. But here's the truth. Clarity comes through movement. Confidence grows through repetition. And signs appear when you commit, not before. The idea that you must feel ready before you act is one of the greatest illusions holding people back from their becoming. Psychologically, the act of doing, of engaging with your new beliefs in the physical world, is what solidifies change. The mind learns not just from what you think, but from what you do repeatedly. When you take action that aligns with a new identity, when you speak up, show up, set a boundary, or choose something healthier, you are teaching your nervous system a new truth. This is who I am now. Not just in theory, but in practice. This is what it means to embody change, to move it out of your head and into your body, your breath, your life. It's not about perfection. It's not about huge, dramatic shifts overnight. It's about making small, meaningful decisions that are rooted in the person you are becoming, not the one you used to be. And when those decisions are repeated gently, consistently, lovingly, they become your new way of being. Louise Hay often spoke about how we must be gentle with ourselves in the process of growth, and I couldn't agree more. Aligned action is not about force. It's not about pushing yourself into exhaustion or chasing external validation. It's about moving with intention, trusting the pace of your own evolution, and remembering that small steps taken consistently have the power to rewire your entire reality. Philosophically, action is the bridge between the inner and outer world. It's the point where vision becomes reality. We can sit with affirmations and self-reflection all day, and those are deeply important. But if we never take the step, if we never enter the arena of life with our new beliefs, then the transformation remains incomplete. You must live your truth, not just think it. So what does this look like in practice? It means you wake up and decide, today I will speak kindly to myself, even if I slip. It means you apply for the opportunity, even if fear whispers that you're not ready. It means you forgive yourself not because the past didn't matter, but because you deserve to move forward. It means you honor your body with rest or movement, not as punishment but as love. It means you stay in the conversation with your becoming every single day. Consistency is the proof of your commitment. It tells your subconscious, this matters to me. And over time, those small, honest actions become your new normal. Not because you forced them, but because you nourished them, you practiced them, you lived them. Let me remind you of something. You don't have to transform your entire life in a day. You only need to show up for your next choice, and then the one after that. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in process, And there is no better time than now, before the page turns, before the world distracts you again, to begin acting like the person you were always meant to be. Because at the end of the day, this is what matters most. Your future is not waiting. It is forming moment by moment, with every brave, aligned step you choose to take.